And I'm back. So this is everything for the month of January 2024. Start of the new year, lots of good books came in. Pretty decent stack this month. Nothing too out of control, I guess. Trying to keep my single issues to a pretty decent stack. Not let it get out of control. Kicking things off, Mortal Thor issue number 6. As I said last month, wasn't really digging this Thor book so far. Um, I really do like the writer Ali, and the art's fantastic. I'm a big fan of this artist, but it's just not catching my attention. I don't know. It's just not grabbing me in. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it's getting a little. I don't know how to describe it really. I there's a lot going on. Maybe not so much in the background or like a B story, but there's just a lot of story, but not a lot of action. But I don't mind that. I actually like that sometimes. I think like a Jonathan Hickman is probably one of my favorite comic writers. He does it all the time. Lots of build up, but you get some good payouts every once in a while. There's just no moments in this issue. And even a couple of the ones before, I was like, oh yeah, I am like invested in this book. I gave it 6 issues. I don't think the Immortal Thor's for me, which is a shame. This is like the first time I've read a Thor book where I didn't continue past 6 issues. So I think I've got like one or two more probably on order, at least one more. I let them know when I read this I wasn't really digging anymore, so I asked them to pull it from my files. So that comes to the end of the Immortal Thor. Moving on, Gods number 4. Speaking of Jonathan Hickman, yeah, there's lots of stuff going on in this book, lots of story, but there's so much cool, just little plot things happening, character moments. There's a larger mystery being built up, but it seems like there's a lot more. Not that the stakes are bigger than when I'm reading in Thor, but just the way that the story is set up is just more appealing to me. There's this really cool sequence where Doctor Strange's character Wynn are kind of moving through time, not time traveling, but they're trying to stop this guy from using a weapon. So you kind of see, the action here, and then we get more of the story of who this guy attacking them is. And each time they get a little bit further, and more dialogue is added to pretty much the exact same frames until we get to where they actually stop him, which is really cool. It's like a really cool storytelling device. That's the kind of stuff I love in a Jonathan Hickman book, and the art in this book is fantastic. So this one I'll definitely be keeping more than 6 issues. Like I'm 4 issues in, and I'm like already invested. Let's keep this going. Moving on, Space Usagi issue number 2 of 3. I think this is just a 3-issue thing. I don't think this is an ongoing. I haven't seen these solicitations for only previews for anything in the last couple of months. So, but it's a fun little story. I like all the stuff Usagi. It's classic Stan Sakai. This time though, Usagi in space. He's protecting this prince after the prince's dad's been basically backstabbed by one of the members of his clan, and he's trying to get his son to meet with this other clan where they were going to have the prince marry the princess more as a political thing. And then they actually meet up with them, and Usagi Yojimbo kind of has a moment with her that's not something he should be doing, basically. So, but one more issue should wrap up the story pretty nicely, as always. So basically about Usagi Yojimbo stories, they can be like 3-4 issues. It's a nice, tight little story. Stan Sakai is a master of his craft. Black Hammer at the end. I think this is more than 6 issues. I'm kind of laughing myself because a lot happens. The Black Hammer catches up with the evil Black Hammer. You learn a lot about Colonel Weird and the Council of Weirds. Black Hammer's son reveals that he has powers. Like they are setting up for the final fight with Anti-God again. And at the end, Black Hammer, she picks up the hammer again. And yeah, there's probably like 1 or 2 more issues, I guess. We'll see how this wraps up. I'm kind of curious. The way they kind of explain things with the multiverse and how the real world that essentially we live in is part of the multiverse but separate. It's really interesting. Some cool stuff. Jeff Lemire's been, this entire Black Hammer series, start to finish, has been really interesting. One I should probably collect the trades of at some point, but yeah, just really content with the singles. Looking forward to that one. And on to more Usagi Yojimbo. This is the regular Usagi title, ongoing. Issue 273 in total, because they're going back to the classic numbering. Jay is chasing down Usagi with the clan. They fight on some ice. Usagi almost dies. They get away. A looks like Jay might be dead, but he's kind of like a demon kind of creature. So this has happened more than once. But they make it to a village and they're good to go. This is like the end, right? You get to the story says the end, but this is issue 4. I think there's like a little epilogue after this, kind of sets up what's next. What's interesting because they reference, it's more of an editorial thing. They reference a previous story, but they don't say the issues. They just actually call out the trade, which was the previous story arc. So I was kind of curious if they're going to do that kind of stuff since it switched from IDW to Dark Horse. But again, I love Usagi Yojimbo. Keep it going. Ultimate Spider-Man #1, another Jonathan Hickman book. The art's done by Chichetto. I can't recall this person's first name. Marco Chichetto. Did the Daredevil book with Chip Zdarsky for a long time. This is like a perfect, I would say it's perfect. That's a highlight, but it is close to perfect first issue. It's a Spider-Man origin, so you know the classic Spider-Man story. Teenage Peter Parker, he's bit by the radioactive spider. He becomes Spider-Man after his uncle dies. This is in the new Ultimate Universe where the Maker went around and prevented all the heroes from becoming heroes. He actually stops the spider from biting Teenage Peter Parker. So Peter Parker's all grown up. He's now 35. He's married to Mary Jane. He's got 2 kids. The son seems to be smarter than the average kids. That's what they kind of hint at. Ben Parker is alive and the managing editor of the Daily Bugle with his good friend J. Jonah Jameson, which is kind of wild. And at the end of the Ultimate Universe series, not the Maker, but basically, the world's, it's revealed in the Ultimate Universe that the world is kind of ruled by this council of people that we think are heroes, but they're acting in their own. They secretly run everything. They find out that Tony Stark is going to try and overthrow them. So they set up Tony Stark and attack New York City, and they kill thousands of people. So this actually picks up a little bit after that. All these people are dead, and one of those people is actually May Parker, unfortunately. So in this Ultimate Universe, Peter's a grown-up. He works at the Daily Bugle for his uncle. His aunt has recently passed, and he's, like I said, married to him, have kids. And you're kind of getting, he doesn't have his powers in this issue. He's just regular Peter Parker. There's a change of the guard at the newspaper, and J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker quit. Wilson Fisk is involved with the paper in some way. Maybe he's an owner or at least a shareholder on the board. Harry Osborn's in it. His mother and father, Norman Osborn, was killed in the Tony Stark attack as well. And the whole time, Peter's like, I got this thing. I got to get home. I got to talk to MJ. I got to talk to MJ about this thing. And it basically leads up that the day before all this issue, he gets a message from Tony Stark from the future, 6 months in the future, where Tony Stark reveals everything that he's experienced, so that the world's being secretly run by a group of villains, and he's hoping to build an army of heroes to try and stop them. And he wants Peter to be one of them because Peter was meant to be a hero, but he was prevented from doing that. And he gives him the means to do it. He gives Peter, I don't know if he gave him a spider suit, but he gives him the spider to give him his powers. And the final page, you see him as Spider-Man. It's great. It's like a near perfect origin issue. It's so good. I can't wait to read more of this book. What's kind of interesting is I was reading an article the other day that said that Chip Zdarsky was originally supposed or approached to write this book, which is kind of interesting. I like Chip Zdarsky. I think he's a great writer, but this feels like a great Hickman character to write. There's tons of nice world building in here. Matt Murdock is he's a priest. He's not Daredevil. You see the Green Goblin, who I pretty much suspect is going to be Norman Osborn. And he's attacking Fisk for some reason. I don't know. But it's just great. Like, of all the books I was reading this month, lots of good issues. This one had me like literally cheering out loud as I finished it. It was just so good to read a good Spider-Man comic again. And I don't say that the other Spider-Man comics out there aren't great, but there are a ton of Spider-Man books. You have Peter, you have Miles, you have Gwen, you have Spider-Boy, you have Black Cat and Mary Jane. There's the Spider-Man book, which is Peter and Miles. There's just so many Spider books. And obviously, Spider-Man's popular, so as a publisher, Marvel wants to get as many books out there as possible. But this is the Spider-Man story I've been waiting for. I feel like I've always wanted Spider-Man to be grown up. So it's great. I can't wait for this to continue. I'm super pumped. Moving on, Transformers #4. Another great Transformers issue from Daniel Warren Johnson. Picks up. Jazz shows up in this one. Optimus Prime got pretty beat up the last issue. He lost an arm and he's trying to get to a hospital to save Chip. Starscream shows up with Soundwave. They start fighting, and Ratchet, in the last ditch to try and help him, uses the remainder of their Energon to get Jazz up and running, who then comes and helps him out. But in the battle, the hospital's damaged, loses power. Everyone in the hospital will potentially die because there's no power. So Optimus Prime uses the Matrix. He uses the Matrix to save people, not to like heal them, to power up the hospital. But then they get everything, tidied up, and yeah, it's a good dialogue between like Ratchet and Optimus, because Jazz only has enough. I don't need enough energy for that battle, so Ratchet's like, you use the Matrix. Like, if without Optimus, there are no Autobots, and the Decepticons just like, take over. Like we've seen what Starscream's doing; he's just murdering and pillaging. Cliffjumper has a really good moment with this young girl, and then Optimus with his arm. I kind of spoiled it, but Optimus, with the help of Ratchet, gets Megatron's old arm, and they're basically like, Cliffjumper, let's go take the fight to them, and we'll go there. And then there's a final page, little showdown of Megatron, who I think he's missing his head here. Oh no, he's got his head. But then I think I saw a spoiler for the Cobra Commander comic where Cobra Commander has Megatron's head. He's using Megatron in some way. So yeah, maybe this clearly must take place beforehand. But yeah, digging this book. I'll stick up to issue 6 and beyond, even though I just read today that Daniel Warren Johnson's only drawing up to issue 6, and then another artist is taking on. So we'll see. He's still going to be writing it, but I kind of figure it's going to be the case. It's very rare. I've never seen Daniel Warren Johnson do a series that's more than 6 or 7 issues at a time. He does everything himself other than the colors. So that's a lot of work, and you can't be keeping that up monthly. He's a family man. He's married, has a wife, he's got kids. So you got to balance work and life. So I understand it. I think the new artist. I saw the new artist. I just can't remember their name right now. But their stuff's pretty good. I've read a couple of books that have had them on art, so it's not gonna be Daniel Warren Johnson, but it should fit his kind of similar to the style. So we'll see. I'll definitely keep reading after issue 6. If Daniel Warren Johnson's going to keep writing it, then I'll keep up with it for a little while. It's one of the best Transformer books I've read in a while. Not that I think the IDW one was bad. I think I read it. I did read it when it first came out, but I just never kept up with it. So I'll probably keep up with this for a year or two, then find something else to read. Moving on, Sacrificers number 6. So this is the end of the first arc, and it ends with a banger. The moon guy, sorry, the princess ran away. Her parents realize she's gone. He goes to confront his, I guess ex-wife, ends up killing her because she won't conform and drink the elixir that makes him young. The young girl, princess, she's drained of her energy the same way they drain the joy out of all the sacrificers to keep the gods young. And in an attempt to save her, Pigeon accidentally gets like soaked in her power. He doesn't realize it at the start, but later on, he basically goes toe to toe with a bunch of guys and just wreaks havoc. So he now then realizes, like, she's like, you have my power. You got to give it back. You got to help me. And he's very bluntly like, I'm not going to do any of that. Like, no one's ever helped me. All your family did was basically leave me to die and actually kill me and kill my friends. So he's going to go after them. He's going to reward them, he says. So, banger of a first arc, honestly. Really looking forward to the rest of this series. Curious how long it goes. I guess it's really like about Rick Remender. Like, the first couple of arcs can really, you feel like it can be like a natural end, but he kind of writes books where I would assume if the sales are doing good, he's like, I just kind of keep this going. I think it's something like Black Science, as an example. Zorro, Man of the Dead. This is the new Sean Gordon Murphy book. It picks up, it's basically a it's just a new Zorro story. It's not really changing the origin too much. Zorro is a folktale in this small town, and this man who's a Zorro actor is killed by the cartel, and his children, a daughter, goes to end up working for the cartel as a driver. She knows her brother's still alive, but she hasn't seen him since that fateful day. And he's actually been just training with the guy who trained his father. Not that his dad was Zorro, he was just an actor. She has to take the cartel to the house. She sees her brother. They kill the trainer, and then her brother's like, "I'm just gonna become Zoro." Kicks some butt. It's a fun first issue. Um, Sean Gordon Murphy, guy knows how to draw action, which is good. Story's good. Character's nice. You can definitely tell that, one of the things you sometimes hear cartoonists complain is like drawing cars. Sean Gordon Murphy clearly loves to draw cars. He draws the most badass cars for his heroes. Dude really loves to draw vehicles. Like, not a problem for that, man. And then last couple issues, the last issue, Giant Robot Hellboy, has an awesome cover by Arthur Adams. Anytime I see Arthur Adams, because he doesn't do much work, I always mistake him for, some of the folks who are clearly inspired by his style, but it's good to see Arthur Adams doing work. I would love to see Arthur Adams doing another comic, but who knows? He probably gets so much money for all these covers, he doesn't need to do work. But Hellboy got knocked out and disconnected from the machine last issue that connects him to the giant robot Hellboy. And his dreams or memories of previous people are now powering the robot, which is kind of cool. And this woman who's still on the island is trying to still escape. Giant robot Hellboy is fighting, and they find out there's a bomb on the island, so she's then obviously trying to escape. Bomb goes off. There's this great scene where the giant robot Hellboy is trying to figure out, like, who is he? Like, what is he? And you kind of see these flashes, all the different memories, all from different books. Like, you got Thor. This is from what was a spin-off of BPRD, but this woman who traveled in, old Hellboy characters, basically, which is really cool. And then it ends with this woman escaping, Jian, and they kind of hint like, do you know who her mother is? And they don't reveal that, and then she escapes. They're going to catch her and kill her, but then she gets away. So I'm kind of curious how that ties into other things. That's the thing about the BPRD. There's so many stories that kind of always interlace with each other. So I'm looking forward to what would potentially be the sequel to Giant Robot Hellboy with Jian in it. And the last comic single issue I got was issue 2 of Somna by Becky Clooney and Tula Lotte. Pretty good book. Can't flip through it too much. It is definitely more adult than the average comic book. But pretty cool story of just like witch hunts and this woman who may or may not be tempted by the devil and all the secrets in the town. Her husband is a barrister. He hunts witches. There's only one more issue left. What I really like is the story kind of flips between the art by Beckley. When the main character is like in her dream state, the art's all by Tula Lotte. Her style really fits the dream sequences. Very, dreamy. I don't know if I have a better word to describe it. But then Becky Clooney does all the stuff when she's awake, and it's got this very, well, it's Becky Clooney. I wouldn't say it looks dreary. I really like Becky Clooney's art. But really, I'm having a lot of fun. Distillery. I got another book, a couple more books ordered from this group. They're all creators I really like who started their own publisher that they kind of co-own, work together on. So yeah, first books from them, so far so good. Then I only got a couple of trades this month, nothing fancy. I'm pretty much caught up on all the Berserker trades now. So what's the next thing to try and get caught up on? I figured I'd just dive in and start getting all the Jonathan Hickman stuff at Marvel. So they have the complete collection of his Avengers run. This is basically the Avengers and New Avengers. Avengers and Silent Avengers? I can't remember the two books. Yeah, New Avengers and Avengers. Normally you'd have like volume 1 of each one. You'd have to flip between. This basically takes his entire run in the reading order that you should read on, which is pretty great because this is Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers is probably my favorite Avengers run. Close to maybe like Kurt Busiek and George Perez's stuff, like in the late 90s. That was some really good, fun Avengers books. I think there's 5 volumes that DC does his entire run up into Secret War, which is great. And then there's also his Fantastic Four collection, which is the same thing. It takes Fantastic Four and Future Foundation, puts them together in their reading order. So once I get these 5 volumes, I'll get the Fantastic Four ones. So by the end of 2024, I'll have all my favorite Jonathan Hickman comics as well. And honestly, if you're a fan of Jonathan Hickman, or if you want to read just the most badass Avengers story ever, get all 5. volumes of this. You're going to see a lot of stuff the MCU, unless things drastically change, kind of tie into some of the stuff that he did. So his whole idea of the Avengers, in the Avengers, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are like, hey, we need to create like a team, right? There's always threats we have to solve. Like, what do we do? How do we solve these threats? So he comes with this thing he kind of called like Avengers Worlds. I probably went too far ahead to show it. But basically, Tony Stark is like, I have a machine that's just going to select the best Avengers for the job whenever whatever job comes up. So that book becomes all about big, bombastic superhero stories. The first one, they go to Mars. Parts of Mars have been terraformed. This is well before the X-Men and the Hickman's Krakoa age. He's actually kind of fascinated with terraforming Mars. Yeah, it kind of ties into, you start to learn about all these different alien races that are being introduced that are travelers across the universe, that terraform planets or destroy planets. And then in the new Avengers, you have the Illuminati meet up, and they discover the, what are they called? The convergence. Basically, two universes, the multiverse is collapsing, and two universes will collide, and only one can survive. So you have to destroy a universe. They prevent the first one at a great cost, and then they meet up, and like, well, I guess we got to figure out how to do this. And Captain America, who's now on the Illuminati at the time, was like, well, yes, we're heroes, we'll find the way to do it. And the rest of the Illuminati is like, well, actually, Steve, the only way to probably do it is we have to be prepared to use a weapon. We have to be prepared to destroy the Earth. We have to be destroyed to destroy something. And yeah, they basically, Captain America's like, I ain't be a part of this. We're not doing this. And they basically mind wipe him. They make him forget about the Illuminati. They make him forget he's a part of this. They make him forget about it, and they leave him. And then they contact Beast. They're like, hey, Beast, your moral ground is great like ours. Work with us. They're like, not the Illuminati is basically, well, you still see Captain America here. But yeah, they start building a weapon to destroy planets. And then the two books just start getting better and better. Like Hyperion gets pulled from a dying universe. He joins up the Avengers. At one point, this takes place when Thor became unworthy, so he doesn't use Mjolnir. But in one of the battles the Avengers have, they meet an evil version of the Avengers, and the evil Thor has a hammer that says, if you are unworthy, you get there. So he gets Mjolnir back, but an evil version. It's just so good. There's so many moments across this entire run that I don't want to spoil, but are just made me jump out of my seat. The only disappointing thing about this collection, honestly, like that's the whatever 6 or 7 issues. How many issues is this? 11 issues, basically. So almost 12. So that's pretty good, But then there's like a huge cover gallery, which I guess is fine. It's good to see, but because of how popular these books, the first run was, and the reprints, and again, this is when Marvel was really getting into the variant game, getting back in the variant game, I should say. There's just so many variant covers, like some good artists. Oh, there's some cool backup stories in here too, that are really fun about Sunspot and Cannonball in Mojo World, which is fun because John Hickman clearly loves the New Mutants. You can tell that from like some of the characters, like in this book, and then also in his backup, and then obviously in his X-Men stuff too. So super fun stuff. And then I got this book called Xeno, which I kind of forgot about, but it's just a collection of science fiction stories by a bunch of different creators. Like Alfred's in here, David Lapham. Those are the two names that really popped out when I was flipping through looking at the arts. But yeah, just short sci-fi stories. I'm a sucker for anthologies, and yeah, this looks really fun. As a review in the cover says, if you prefer your sci-fi with a dose of psychedelia, enjoy. So looking forward to reading through that. I'll probably hold off on reading the Avengers stuff until I get like 1 or 2 more volumes. But we'll see. But yeah, January, pretty small month. Like I'm always expecting, I think thinking back to like November and in October, huge boxes, but this was pretty good size. So can't complain. Lots of good books. Already read through these ones. Just gotta catch up on some of the trades I've picked up. So yeah, as always, let me know what you think. Send me your jeers, send me your cheers, and I'll see you next time.